Good evening and welcome to the Online Warriors podcast. We're back again here in this second week of August. And first of all, we wish you all a good evening and hope you're all doing well. And as usual, I am Illeagle 86 and I am one of your three hosts. I am joined by the lovely Nerdbomber.
Hello, everybody.
And Mr. Techtic 1.
Hello, and I have to say, you sound fantastic today.
Well, I'll tell you why that is, Techtic. I got myself a new microphone courtesy of the two of you. For those that are interested in getting into the nuts and bolts of how we produce this podcast, before now I was using a Snowball, which Snowball is a very popular entry-level mic, and I've now graduated to, well, let me check the brand on this.
It's a Behringer something. I think it's like an XM 1800, if I'm remembering correct. You heard it here first.
It is a Behringer something. Yeah, I see the Behringer part. I don't see the rest of it. I got a pop filter, I got a stand, I got the whole deal. So now I'm going to hopefully sound as good as you two sound, and hopefully it will improve your listening experience.
For your listening pleasure.
Yeah,
wow.
It's going to be some real ear candy today. And speaking of ear candy, we got a lot of great things to talk about today. We're going to talk about the stand of the gaming community on loot boxes. So Nintendo and Sony and Microsoft just kind of made a strong statement about that. We're going to talk about Disney, which is not saying much because Disney's involved in everything, but we're specifically going to be talking about the rumored Aladdin sequel that's being considered. And we're also going to talk about one of the great mysteries of our time and a new potential discovery that could unlock the secret to the final resting place of Amelia Earhart. So, pretty exciting episode today, and we can kind of just dive right in, and we can start by talking about loot boxes. So, for those of our listeners that are gamers, they're probably already aware of this, but essentially Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo have joined forces, essentially, and they have agreed to implement new policies, essentially disclosing loot box odds. So it's especially relevant to gamers and to us. I mean, we talked about loot boxes just last week. We talked about Rocket League. Mm-hmm. So this is essentially huge news. They're targeting 2020 for implementation of some policies, again, that will essentially require developers to disclose information about the odds on the loot boxes. So basically turn it from gambling. Well, I guess it's still gambling, but there's a lot more information on the table.
It's now the equivalent of lottery tickets. How's that? It still sounds a lot like gambling, but essentially probability disclosures will make it feel, I guess, a little bit less random, even though it still is essentially random. What I'm curious about is what the odds are, because I would like to know the odds of some of the games that are out now. I mean, Battlefront 2 is obviously one of the big ones that was talked about a lot, and how long it would take to get Darth Vader and blah, 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 all this stuff. And granted, a lot of that was progression issues too, but, what odds do the developers think are fair? And not only what do they think is fair, but what do they think that we're going to be able to stomach hearing?
I think that's a really good point, because I think too, if a developer is super out of whack in comparison with other developers when they're talking about the odds of getting a rare item in some kind of loot crate or something like that, then they'll be not pressured, but they'll be more apt to fall in line with the rest of the industry, which I guess is a good thing or a bad thing, because I guess if a precedent is set where odds are terrible, then that's not good. But I think there would be enough backlash from the general gaming community to kind of push things in the right direction in terms of fair odds, at least for rare items.
It's certainly going to drive, with regards to these people trading stuff and giving other people what they've earned from their loot. It's going to drive a shift in what people are valuing things for sure, because it'll be more black and white as to what its value is.
Yeah, I think we talked about Rocket League and the economy that has kind of formed around Rocket League and the crates last week. And I think, like you said, it'll be a little bit more black and white. It won't just be someone's assumed valuation on this item. You'll actually know the odds of an item. And one of the other things that I think is really interesting is that having the odds disclosed means that game developers won't be able to shift the odds as frequently because they'll have to state the odds up front. And one of the things, and I don't remember what article I was reading this in, but I do remember there was some streamer that was collaborating with a game developer to basically stream the opening of crates, and his odds were actually higher than the normal person. They like skewed his odds so that it would be more exciting for people to watch. So that kind of thing now will kind of be stymied by these new transparency rules that the console developers have really implemented here.
Yeah, but a lot of the people streaming are still going to have, certain access to things, kind of like when they get the first opening of some kind of new hardware ahead of it being released.
Right, but at least they'll have the same odds when they're opening loot crates as the general public will.
I mean, transparency can only be good. Like, I am really curious to see, like, I'm thinking back to, and granted, I don't know if these were actually considered loot boxes, but, like, I would say my personal, like, my biggest exposure to loot boxes, because I have Battlefront 2, but I didn't really play it that much. My biggest exposure to it is probably Destiny and Destiny 2, because I played through both of those games, and first of all, I will say I love those games. They're great, but there was an element of randomness that I found frustrating. And then what they would do is they would host these events, and like on a certain weekend, if you logged on, I believe your chances of getting certain legendary items and loot boxes would change, and the whole system would essentially change for a temporary amount of time, of just to get more people on at a specific time, I guess, which I guess was good for the developers for some reason or another. But like you said, the odds either cannot shift, or they have to be shifted much more carefully. And again, it all has to be transparent. So that's going to change that whole economy so much. And I think the aspect of competition, like between game developers, is going to be the most interesting part to watch, just because, like, you can't come out with a game that there's like 1 in 1,000 odds of winning something when there's a game right next to you that is very similar and the odds are 1 in 100. People are going to go and buy that 1 in 100 game. I
tend to disagree with you there. I think even with them being transparent, I don't think it's going to stop people from quote unquote gambling. That's why the lottery makes so much money, because they know that it's 1 in a billion shot for them to be the next millionaire, but people still avidly play.
I'm not saying they're going to stop gambling. I'm saying that to use the lottery example, let's say that you lived in Florida and you went to play the Florida lottery, and the odds of winning $1 million were 1 in 100,000. And then Florida Lottery 2 came out, and Florida Lottery 2 had 1 in 10,000 odds of winning $1 million. Which one are you going to play?
Florida Lottery 1.
May I ask why?
It's the OG Florida Lottery.
So you're a lottery loyalist. That's very interesting.
Well, I would go with the one with the better odds. That's just me.
I would go. I mean, yeah, call me old fashioned, but I would go with Florida Lottery too, because my chances of winning $1 million is higher. I don't know. I mean, and granted, obviously that like example doesn't translate directly into video games. Like, there's a certain extent to which you can't really compare apples to oranges. Like, even Fortnite's competitors are not Fortnite. So like, if a Fortnite competitor says we'll lower our odds, it doesn't guarantee that people are going to go away from Fortnite, especially if they've already spent a lot of time and effort, gathering loot boxes and important stuff in that game. They're not going to switch to something so easily. There is the aspect of loyalty, like you weirdly used with the lottery example. But like, I don't know. I guess I'm interested to see what they do, because like you said too, it might be the kind of thing where, yeah, they all kind of meet on where the odds are, but the odds still might suck. And then what do we do? Because then they could say the odds suck, but we have you right where we want you. You have to buy these games and play them because we know you want to.
I think in general, this is just a really interesting step for the gaming industry too, because I mean, I know we've seen some governments try to take on loot boxes and try to classify what's gambling and what's not. But this is the first time I think we've seen the gaming industry themselves as a whole kind of come together to address the loot box problem. And I mean, kudos to Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo for kind of enforcing a more fair, basically, place for players to play. And I mean, I know this doesn't necessarily influence PC gaming at all, but you'll have to assume that if developers have these odds for the console games, they're not going to stray too far on PC, because PC gamers aren't stupid either. Like, if they're never getting rare items and everyone on consoles are, I mean, we know the gaming community, they'll call them out. So I think just from the perspective of a good step for the gaming industry, I think this is a really good, noble cause. And also just it's nice to see these basically behemoths of the gaming industry working together for something good.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, the gaming community is, the thing is, I don't want to say unforgiving. They seem unforgiving. Like, Battlefront 2, again, to kind of go back to that example, like, when it came out, there was, like, this huge backlash. Like, the most downvoted Reddit comment of all time was from one of EA's developers describing how it was going to work. Like, people hated it. But they still made so much money, because not every gamer is discerning. Like, yeah, the gaming community has been up in arms about loot boxes for a while now, but you're always going to have that, I hate to say it, like 12-year-old kid who's a part of this market share who just doesn't care. Will gamble no matter what the odds are. Will, dump a bunch of microtransactions, borrow their parents' credit card, whatever you want, and like, yeah, kind of game the system against everybody else, I guess you could say. But it is super cool to see the big three taking a stance on this, and for once actually listening to the more vocal members of the gaming community, because we have seen that, especially recently, I feel like we have seen the gaming industry not really listening too much to the gamers. And I don't know exactly why that is. I don't know if the gaming industry thinks, whatever, they can say whatever they want. We know they're going to buy our games. Like the Diablo 3 or whichever the next Diablo is, where they were touting this big Diablo announcement. They announced a mobile game, and like no one wanted that. But the gaming industry is going to give us that, and they seem pretty confident that we're going to be into that. So like, I think
right now there's a very weird gray area thing happening where the gaming community is either 0 to 100. I think maybe the gaming industry is not insulating themselves, but almost like muting a lot of the opinions coming out of the gaming community, because I mean, most of the people that I've interacted with online in terms of gaming are totally great people, met some really great people through the gaming community, but there's that vocal minority that just harasses game developers, which is never okay. They're always like just crapping on anything that happens. Anything that a developer does, it's just like negative. That was even seen, there was
welcome to the internet.
Right. But I mean, it seems like it's a little bit more extreme, and maybe it's just because the gaming community is very involved online. But even like the boycott Borderlands 3 trend that was going on Twitter, and
right.
That's a whole story that I don't want to get into, but a lot of it was based off of misinformation, and people didn't have the full story, but the vocal minority just kind of hopped on this bandwagon and railed against developers who, like, when a company does something wrong, it's good to call them out, but at the same time, like, you have to remember that all of these development teams, it's not just one person. There's humans behind the game. There's like hundreds of people working on the game who have families and lives, and
right.
The vocal minority, I think, has a lot of backlash against the big gaming developers, and so I think in turn they've kind of turned off some of what they listen to.
Yeah, it's totally a fair point. I mean, the vocal minority, especially as Techtic said, like on the internet, they're all you're going to hear. And there are plenty of people out there who don't have these like vendettas. That's the word I would use. Like, so many people now, perhaps even before Battlefront 2, but especially after, have this like crazy vendetta against EA. And like, I personally, like, EA has given me some of my favorite games. So like, it's hard for me to, see Battlefront 2 and see some of the bad decisions that brand has made and say, okay, I'm never going to buy anything from you again, or okay, I'm blackballing you, essentially. Like, I'm not one of those people, but those people are definitely out there. So
I think if you do that, you miss out on so many great games that are out there, because especially when you talk about these giant developers like your EAs and your Ubisofts and all that, like, okay, if there's one bad game or one bad business practice, they have a ton of different studios under their main name.
Right, exactly.
And there's so many different amazing games that come out. And honestly, like, it's just, I would hate to miss an incredible experience just because one other game from the same publishing house did something that I didn't like.
I mean, I think it's like anything to an extent. Like I'm not. I want to make it clear that I am not saying that EA is blameless in what they have been, taken to task for in the past few years. They certainly are not. But it's also worth acknowledging that there are a lot of moving pieces. Like you said, there are a lot of developers and a lot of sub-developers and a lot of, in-house studios that work extremely hard. And yeah, like the people at EA are probably more likely to want to make a quick buck than those in-house studios are. It's a very complex equation, I think. Either way, like this development with the loot boxes to kind of head back in that direction, like there's nothing bad about this to me at all.
Yeah. My final question, I guess, for you guys. Sorry to cut you off.
No, you're fine.
So this isn't the first time that we've seen Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo work together. We heard that Microsoft and Sony will be working more on like cloud-based gaming moving forward. So what do you think this bodes for the future of gaming? Like, do you think we'll see a more unified approach? Especially, I think there was a small news segment where Microsoft announced that some of the new game studios that they've acquired may not be exclusively Xbox producing games. Like they could have their games launch on PlayStation and other places.
I was going to say, did we talk about this? I feel like we might have talked about this on a recent episode.
Yeah, we did talk about the cloud-based. The actual cover of the podcast included a picture of Xbox and PlayStation.
So like ultimately, do you think this will be like a more unified approach from all three companies as we move into the next generation of consoles, which is actually very near, like it's super soon. It's next year.
So I think...
Sorry, go ahead.
I think with regards to technology progressing and wanting to stay current, they need to work together to say, hey, this is our new technology. We're going to share, what's not proprietary so much that would leverage the market for both of them, i.e. the cloud-based and things like that. It makes sense, right? If you had... They both see that the market is moving to all digital content, and if they work together on it, then they can guarantee that they both have seamless processing and server farms to support it, whereas both of them having I guess you would say a half-assed capability would just not bode well for either. So it definitely is advantageous for them to work together with these new emerging technologies.
I mean, I agree with that. Nerdbomber, if you're asking me, how closely do I see these companies working together in the future? I'm skeptical. Like, yeah, this is a great thing that we're hearing now, and like the cloud computing thing is great too. We're not going to see these companies shaking hands very often, I don't think. There is still so much money in this industry. And I would say, like, if that were to happen, if we were to see handshaking going on, it would 100% be Xbox and Sony shaking hands and Nintendo sitting in a corner. I see Nintendo as, first of all, owning a vastly different market share and trying to do something that is like significantly different than the other two. So like Microsoft and Sony working together, yeah, I could certainly see that. I was especially surprised by this announcement because Nintendo was involved. Like, to me, that gap is much harder to bridge. I'd like to see them work together more, just because I think that would have a net positive effect on us. But will it on them? I'm not sure. Like, Techtic, you make a great argument about, the use of these resources and pulling them together can only help. But are the execs going to see that? I can't really say.
Well, both companies, right, they both had some kind of cloud-based setup, but both had their weaknesses, right? And the other ones had strengths to leverage the opposite one's weakness. And I know my what I'm saying is just sounding very convoluted, but I feel like everyone's following me. So for as a case by case basis, right? It's not going to be, hey, we have exclusive content that's specific to this game or like a VR setup. They're not going to share that, obviously, but something where they're both kind of working at it and both having troubles, that makes sense.
Well, I see it's really probably going to come down to if these, I'm going to call them classic gaming brands, are going to try to band together against some of the newcomers in the industry, like Google Stadia or Amazon. I can see them having some kind of gaming division. So I'm just wondering how that'll pan out in the future. But I mean, ultimately, we'll have to wait and see.
That I agree with. I think if anything is going to spur these three originals working together, it is going to be companies like Google and Amazon trying to horn in on their business. Then you might see some inter-brand loyalty that you did not see before. I don't know how far off that is. We've talked about Stadia on the podcast before, but I don't know where that currently sits. So we'll have to keep checking back. But Amazon and Google, as always, are scary, foreboding future demons for the gaming industry to fight. And in the vein of like big companies like that, we should talk about Disney as well. And we should talk about Aladdin. Now, I know we talked about Lion King on the podcast, and that was fairly recently. Mm-hmm. Did you guys see Aladdin? Because I did not see Aladdin.
We did see Aladdin, yeah.
You did see it, okay. And we probably talked about that too. It would just, at this point, it would have been at least a few episodes ago, probably over a month ago. Mm-hmm. I don't know what you thought of it. I mean, for starters, to kind of break into this topic, so it has just come out that a follow-up to the live-action Disney movie is being discussed. I mean, it grossed over $1 billion at the box office, so it's like, it did very well financially for them, so it makes sense that they'd be thinking of a sequel. Now, it received mixed reviews from critics, and I myself did not go because as I've mentioned, do not typically agree with the whole live action thing that Disney is doing. But for starters, did you guys find Aladdin to be an experience that's worthy of a sequel?
So I really liked Aladdin. I thought the actors were all amazing. The singing was amazing. I thought Will Smith was the highlight of the movie. He did a great job as the genie. I wasn't sure if he would be able to replace Robin Williams, but he was a really close second. He did a really good job, kind of made it his own. Overall, I thought that the movie did a really good job of being true to the source material while adding just enough in terms of differences to make it worthwhile to see. So that said, I would be on board with a sequel, but the source material isn't great. And for that reason alone, I don't think I would want to see a sequel, because if we go back to the Aladdin original animated sequels, they were both direct to like VHS movies. I think one was Return of Jafar, and I don't remember what the third one was.
I just looked this up because I didn't know. First of all, I saw the original Aladdin. I never saw the Return of Jafar. It was only 1 hour and 9 minutes, so like, can't have been that good. I mean, like you said, it's clearly a direct-to-video situation. And then you said there was a third one as well?
Yeah, I can't remember what the name of it was. Clearly, it didn't make that big of an impression on me as a kid. But like, okay, so the sequels were all right, and I obviously watched them as a kid because I liked Aladdin and I liked Disney. So like, as a child, I was on board with literally anything Disney related. But I can't see either of those movies becoming anything that would look good in live action on a big screen. Like, they weren't long enough. The story wasn't really engaging enough. There was a reason it went direct to VHS in the first place. So
Aladdin and the King of Thieves was the third one. Got a 27% on Rotten Tomatoes, so
like without good source material, I don't trust. I guess I just don't trust people with these beloved characters. I don't trust them to write a good sequel that isn't just tacky and fan servicey. I don't know.
You forgot to mention the best part about the live action Aladdin, and that's that they wrapped it up really, really well.
They did.
So to go beyond that, I mean, they showed the genie had a happy life and pulled a How I Met Your Mother and pretty much told his kids the story. It took a really long time to tell him how he met his mother, but I guess same kind of precedence. And then on the other side, Aladdin himself, right? He was also wrapped up, got the girl. The only sequel that I can see potentially having value, because I mean, like, really being something engaging, because they were kind of going down this path, is a standalone movie where Jasmine's the star, because they were kind of empowering her as a strong, independent character who don't need no man. Right. I could see that being something exciting. But any other storyline, I feel like Aladdin's done and over with, and I feel like the Genie's done and over with.
I just, like, for me, like, what you said, Nerdbomber, about the source material, like, to me that rings true, and you need not look any further in terms of, you know, live action franchises that Disney has run clear into the ground than Pirates of the Caribbean. Like,
oh yeah,
those movies still make a lot of money, and there wasn't even much source material to begin with. The source material was a ride at Disney that they took and made into this, first of all, fantastic movie. The first one was amazing. The second one was pretty good too. The first one was amazing. Still one of my favorite movies. I love Curse of the Black Pearl. It's so good. But then, you know, as they went on, what have they made now? 6 or 7 of them.
I think so,
and
yeah.
They turn into more of a joke every time, and they still make them because they make a lot of money, especially internationally. But, like, you know, I'm not saying that's what they're doing with Aladdin, but what you said about the source material, to me, it's like Pirates of the Caribbean ran out of source material probably after the first one, and now they're just spinning their wheels. Like, to me, I still don't agree with the whole live action remake thing just on principle. But if you're going to take one of these live action movies and you're going to remake it, I know multiple people who, I don't want to say they think The Lion King 2 is better than The Lion King 1, but, like,
oh yeah. Well, no,
you're one of these people.
The
You're one of
Lion
these people
King
who,
1
like,
was amazing. So, like, Lion King 2 doesn't necessarily hold a candle to Lion King 1, but I would say it is as good as the first movie.
Disgrace.
Right. So, yeah, my girlfriend sings that song all
I
the
love
time.
that song.
But like, if you're gonna do one of these if you're gonna do a sequel of one of these live action remakes, I feel like it has to be Lion King 2. Like there's so much more loyalty to that movie. I've never even heard of Return of Jafar or whatever it's called, but Lion King 2, like, people talk about that movie. That movie, you know, there are people who think it's on par with the first. So, like, why wouldn't you go in that direction first? I mean, maybe, you know, Lion King, the remake of Lion King was probably much more of an endeavor, both technically and, like, in terms of the cast they had to get and everything. But, like, I don't know. The first remake seemed to do pretty well. I don't know why they wouldn't do that one first.
And, like,
seems
honestly,
like a stronger candidate to me.
There's even other movies. If you want to, like, I think they should just start fresh and do one-offs, because there's still movies that are untapped that were animated great movies. Like, for example,
Hercules
would be phenomenal in live action. Additionally, I think Moana would be really great. And I know that's a newer movie, so that won't draw on the same nostalgia factor, but arguably Moana has a fantastic soundtrack. I think really would give representation to another group of people who don't get a lot of movies and representation outside of The Rock.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, The Rock will star in it for sure.
Well, I mean, The Rock was in Moana, so that would only make sense, but...
You know what live action remake I want to see? And actually, let me make sure that this is a Disney movie before I say it.
Anastasia?
No.
That's not a Disney movie, but I would be on board.
Atlantis?
Oh, yeah, I forgot that. Or Treasure Planet. Oh, those are both really good movies. Everyone forgets about them.
These are, first of all, those are 2 great suggestions. Second of all, okay, it looks like it's confusing whether this is a Disney movie or not. I'm almost positive it is. The Brave Little Toaster, guys. Remember the Brave Little Toaster?
That is not a Disney movie, but it would be an incredible live action movie.
It sounds like you basically suggested they make a live action VeggieTales for whatever the Brave Little Toaster is.
Oh, heck yeah.
I just want to see a toaster live action just walking around and doing stuff.
That's so brave.
That's all I'm asking for. Man, I really thought this was Disney. I guess not. Okay, the animators were a mixture of ex-Disney employees and college graduates from Cal Arts. I'm on the Wikipedia for this movie.
Or like the Iron Giant, who had its 20th anniversary. Now I know we're going on a tangent about other movies that would be better than an Aladdin sequel, but I mean, give me an Iron Giant live action movie and I will be there for it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think now, like, there's got to be other Disney movies that I watched when I was a kid. Like, even if you want to go with the creepy animal route, like you did with Lion King, you guys ever watch Oliver and Company?
Oh, I was just listening to the song.
Billy Joel, man.
Yeah.
It was a Billy Joel on the soundtrack. Oh my gosh. That was a great movie. I mean, I watched so many of these. These are my bread and butter when I was a kid. If you're going to go the remake route, which, you know, I still don't agree with it, but if you're going to go with the live action remake route, I agree. Don't tap into one you already made and look for source material that's not there. Use the source material you have.
Why?
Is good.
Why should I worry? Why should I care? Is what I'm asking you.
Is that one of the songs?
That's Oliver and Company. Why should I worry? They're all so good, Disney. Use what you got.
Seriously. I mean, like, you're Disney. You have a world of material at your fingertips. Like Lady and the Tramp. Aristocats. Aristocats would be like, if you know the creepy trailer for the Cats movie. Did we talk about that on the podcast? Because, man,
yeah, maybe they don't touch Aristocats.
maybe it might not be. Well, it would only be a good idea if they did it not the Cats way and like just put people in like costumes
or did the Lion King way. It was all CGI.
Yeah, or
just made them look real.
Don't do a mix because it turns out like incredibly creepy, I guess is the takeaway there. But yeah, I mean, there's so many live action remakes you could do that wouldn't involve
making stuff up, basically.
Yeah, what I think we all agree is a very shaky proposition that is probably based purely on the fact that the first one made $1 billion. And like, yeah, the first one made $1 billion, but that's because people were going to see how they reinterpreted a story that everyone loves. If you came out with Return of Jafar live action, people would be like, who the hell cares? I have no connection to this. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, again, I have strong feelings on the remake front, no matter which way you slice it, but this seems like an extra wrong move to me.
But you know what? I'm sure people will still go see it.
Oh, 100%. So on that note, we're going to take a short break here, and we are going to shout out our good friend Ben, Mr. Ben Checkness. So Ben is our Patreon producer. He supports us at the night level, which is the highest of our 3 levels. And in doing so, he is a producer, and he gets shout outs on our show. He gets input into our game segments every week, and he will pretty soon be actually appearing in a guest spot on the show himself. So that could be you guys. If you listen to the show every week and you want to be a part of it in a bigger way than you already are, then feel free to head over to our Patreon and check us out. So Ben also gets, along with all those benefits, he gets access to our secret segments, which come out every month, and our monthly vlog as well. So a lot of extra content if you're in the market for that sort of thing. And it's also worth noting you can support us at the Squire level, which is level 2, and that gets you access to both the vlog and the secret segment. Or you could support us at the page level, which is level 1, and that gets you secret segment access. So we really appreciate you checking us out on Patreon, maybe throwing us some support. You know, we work very hard doing this, and we appreciate any support we get, and we just are happy you're all listening. But if you want to give back, then you'll get shouted out on the podcast, for one. You can brag to all your friends who listen to the Online Warriors. So again, shout out to Ben, and shout out to our Patreon, which is patreon.com/OnlineWarriorsPodcast or some such. Just search us, you'll find it.
You actually got it right that time. We didn't have to do like the question mark, exclamation point thing. I kind of looked forward to that.
I never know. It keeps me on my toes every week. I never memorize it. I just hope I'll figure it out along the way, and this time it worked out.
Now I'd like to take a second to talk about one of our other commonly talked about things, Podcoin. Podcoin is a really cool app that you can get on both Android and iPhone. And it's a free app that actually pays you to listen to podcasts. So for every minute that you listen to your favorite podcast, you'll get paid in Podcoin, which you can put towards gift cards or even charity. So if you're interested, you can check us out on Podcoin. And if you haven't signed up yet, you can use our code, which is OnlineWarriors, to get 300 bonus Podcoin at sign up. So yeah, check them out.
I mean, when have you gotten 300 free anything? It's probably been a long time.
I never get 300 free anything.
I'm not sure that has ever happened to me. And, if it ever has, it's probably like something dumb, like 300 toothpicks or something, which is basically just a free box of toothpicks, which not as good as 300 Podcoin.
Honestly, now I kind of want to give away like a box of toothpicks, like do a giveaway, just like super random.
Give away doll hairs.
That wouldn't be bad.
Everyone's always asking for doll hairs.
Be a little creepy though. Like, why do you have that many doll hairs? And like, what are you going to do for it?
If you're listening,
what are you going to do with it when you're...
I'm going to have 300 doll hairs. It sounds like a lot of money.
It does, but it's just creepy.
So this is a good interaction opportunity with our audience. What should we give away 300 of to one lucky listener? And don't say dollars, because we can't make that happen. Don't say anything more expensive than $1, because we can't make that happen. Probably don't even make it anything more expensive than however much 300 toothpicks cost. Just something along those lines. And that'll be a fun thing that one of you could potentially have.
Yeah, so. Shout it out. Let us know on the Twitters. We are at OnlineWarriors1.
300 Spartans.
You can also hit us up on Instagram, and our Instagram is something. Someone else say what it is, because I don't know.
At Online Warriors Podcast.
I could not come up with that, even though it's very obviously us. So, check us out. We all also have handles. I'm at OW Illeagle86 on Twitter. We have at OW Nerdbomber and at OW Techtic. Is there one on the end of that?
No, one. Just Techtic.
I called you Techtic 1 earlier, and that was wrong. You're just Techtic now.
Yeah, I was trying to be nice.
I can't shake old habits, man. Techtic used to be called Techtic 1 back in the day. And then he dropped the 1, and it's been very confusing for all of us. It's like when Snoop Dogg changed to Snoop Lion. Pretty much the same thing.
Is he still Snoop Lion, or did he go back to Dog?
You know what? Let me give that a quick Google.
I know that sometimes Snoop Dizzle is in the hizzle.
Is he in our hizzle? I thought I locked the doors.
The shizzle.
I think Snoop Lion was probably really short-lived.
It was like a phase.
Yeah, maybe like a marketing
Wasn't it like the reggae genre, I believe?
Other names: DJ Snoopadelic, Snoop Doggy Dog, Snoop Lion, Snoopzilla.
He needs to go back to
chronological.
The first one that you said. Can you say it again, please?
DJ Snoopadelic.
Yep, that's the one. He needs to be that one.
That one's already taken, because that's what I call myself. Okay, yeah, he returned to the Snoop Dogg name in 2015, so it was like a 3-year sabbatical that he was Snoop Lion. Anyways, that is a bit of a sidebar, and now we'll get back to the main bar, which is talking about our dear and departed friend Amelia Earhart. So, an article came out yesterday at the time of recording this, Monday, if you're listening to this on Wednesday or Thursday or whenever, in the New York Times, the failing New York Times, about Amelia Earhart. So essentially, the gist of it is that new information has been discovered, in part by the guy who initially found the Titanic, Robert Ballard. So first of all, this guy's got a pretty cool life. He found the Titanic, and now he thinks he has a lead on where Amelia Earhart might be. So essentially, people have been looking for Amelia Earhart since she disappeared in 1937. Obviously, they have not found her. I feel like you hear something almost every year about someone saying, oh, I found her. Oh, she's got to be here. And they go look, and, she's not there. But this Mr. Robert Ballard, I should say Dr. Ballard, he apparently has a degree in something, is 77 years old, and he has recently come into some evidence in a photograph that essentially seems to suggest that she's on a certain island somewhere in the Pacific. Essentially, there's a photograph that has a certain type of landing gear in it, like very far in the peripheral. that allowed people to kind of hone in on, I'm going to try and pronounce the name of this island, but it's probably not right, Nikumaroro Island, in the mostly uninhabited Phoenix Islands. And apparently that is a potential place to look for her plane. So they're getting ready to go out and do that.
The crazy thing is that I'm pretty sure this island, it's like 4 or 5 miles long and 2 miles wide. So if she managed to crash on this island, like, she was a great pilot, because it's literally in the middle of nowhere in the ocean, and it's teeny as heck.
So there are a lot of theories that have kind of, I mean, there have been theories around for a while, but one that is kind of, I guess, supported by this potential landing place is that she was an American spy, and she was captured, like, her plane was shot down and she was captured by the Japanese.
My favorite theory that I read, because I was reading a bunch of like conspiracy theories about what happened to her, and my favorite one is that she actually landed her plane and like destroyed it so that she could run off to New Jersey to be a housewife, because if you're Amelia Earhart, that's super appealing.
You're never going to have a relaxing life if you're Amelia Earhart. You're too good of a pilot.
So regardless of fan theories, my favorite takeaway from the article is that what happened is they got this photo, but the landing gear was like this super blurry image in the far left corner.
A smudge, basically.
Yeah, right. And they took it to basically the FBI, we'll call it, and they enhanced the image and made it perfectly clear to be able to discern what type of landing gear. And the way that they enhanced it was with quote-unquote classified technology.
Yeah, it's the same thing that you see in the movies when there's a guy at a computer and some other like business guy is like, okay, enhance that photo. And he just hits one key and it like makes everything sharper. But whatever that is.
But that takeaway, I always thought that was kind of like CSI mumbo jumbo. That doesn't really happen, honestly.
So that's your biggest takeaway, is that technology is real.
Oh my goodness, that blew my mind. That proves that can really enhance again, enhance a third time, enhance.
It's a pretty big deal for sure.
Look at that wart. Yuck. But
so
use that on my Android, please, because I'm tired of getting blurry, zoomed in photos. Please unclassify it. That'd be great.
I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, they don't want us taking pictures that good. I don't really know. I guess they don't want us taking pictures of like Area 51 and enhancing them or something, you know? That's like probably what the danger is. Not to go back to the whole Area 51 thing. But essentially, kind of to go back to Amelia Earhart for a second, to wrap up that, like, there's an expedition to this island that I mentioned being funded by National Geographic, and this is all going to be televised on October 20th, probably on the Nat Geo like channel or something. So it's going to be like severely dramatized, and like they might find her, and I don't know. Like, I don't really know what the takeaways are from finding. Like, okay, we found her.
I hope it's not like other shows like this where it's like all hyped up, and then
they find nothing.
They find nothing, but they're like, well, in the end, we learned a lot, and it's just kind of the standard boilerplate statement. But
in the end, the
whole thing, they're like, you won't believe what they're going to find after this commercial break.
Right. And then at the end, they're like, in the end, all we really needed to find all along was ourselves. And you're like, no, I want you to find Amelia Earhart. Yeah, I mean, I agree.
I have a lot of faith, though, and I guess they're basing this off of a really blurry picture. But Dr. Ballard, so I actually saw him in person. He gave like a talk in the area that I lived. It was a long time ago, so the details are a little bit fuzzy, but I do remember like the technology that his ships have is incredible, and I actually looked up to see what kind of technology they'd be using on this expedition, and his ship is comprised of a bunch of high-definition cameras. They have a 3D mapping system on board, so they can pretty much map out the entire island and get a good feel for the terrain and like objects that might be on the terrain. They have remote operated underwater vehicles, and one of them, and I think this is probably what they used to help find the Titanic, it can go underwater up to 20,000 feet. Like, they have a lot of really advanced technology to help them find it. So if she did crash land on this island, I have faith that they will be able to find at least something to hint that she was there.
Right. Something else that I wanted to like kind of tack on to this like, and granted, this is saying that she's on some island somewhere. If she's in the ocean somewhere, the chances of us finding her are very low, and here's why. It was put into perspective for me this way when I was listening to another podcast that I currently can't remember the name of. Mile Higher, I think is what it was called. Shout out to the Mile Higher podcast. We know what the entire surface of the moon looks like. There is 80%, I believe is the number, 80% of the ocean floor completely undiscovered. There is potentially more down there that we don't know about than like in space. I heard this and it was blowing my mind. So like Amelia Earhart could be down there, way at the bottom, past the 20,000 feet that you mentioned that this other submarine could go, and like she will never be found.
And here's the other thing: the pressure and temperature down that low would just crush you.
There won't be much to find, anyways.
And then here's the other thing: according to Wikipedia, 149 of this exact aircraft were made. Who's to say? Sure, it's the landing gear, but who's to say that it's her landing gear? There's no way
that a lot of question marks
that you can't say that's not a possibility.
But I mean, this guy found the Titanic. He's got some experience. He knows what he's doing.
There was one Titanic.
True.
I
mean, again, I have to go back to the question though of like, let's say he goes to this island and finds her. It's like, okay, we found, like, I feel like there's better things for this guy to be doing than finding Amelia Earhart just to say, I found Amelia Earhart, now we can put that to bed. Like, as much as you hear about it every year, I feel like not many people know or care about where Amelia Earhart is.
Well, the other exciting part is it would be a fantastic flagstone for him to pass on his legacy to his team because he is retiring. So beyond just I found Amelia Earhart, it's going to be, look what kind of exciting discoveries can be made and what kind of future can be held to you young bucks and does, I guess. I don't know.
Well, I mean,
it's like, sorry, go ahead.
There's modern day explorers, I guess, isn't a very big field. I mean, you have like archaeologists and stuff, but people who actually just kind of go out in search of something that may not be there at all in the middle of the ocean, I feel like that's a rare breed. So having him make a big discovery as his last hurrah, I guess, would be good for that scientific community.
I mean, anyone who's out there looking for stuff like this, the reason they're not looking for Amelia Earhart is because she presumably did not crash with, like, you know, a ton of gold or something. Like, these guys are out there looking for money, looking for the Titanic because there was like a bunch of valuable stuff on board the Titanic. Like, Amelia Earhart is just going to be some crashed plane somewhere with maybe some remains. At this point, it's been, 80 years. It's not likely that there's anything left. So I suppose what it gets you is peace of mind, if you're a peace of mind kind of person. I don't want to be cynical, but, like, I guess I just don't know. I'll have to watch this program on National Geographic and see what the hype is all about. Leave us I'll tell you what, drop us a line. Tell us where you think Amelia Earhart is. Do you think this latest theory is correct, or do you think she's, like, in New Jersey or, like, on Mars or, what have you? She might still be alive. That's the other thing. Like, maybe the reason she hasn't been found is that she's still out there. Maybe she's your aunt.
How old would she be at this point?
I think she'd be like 100. I don't know how old she was when well, I'll Google it really quick. Cause she'd probably be too old now to, like, be alive. I don't know how old she was when she took the plane.
I believe she was in her 30s, wasn't she? And
and that was in 1937. Yeah, I don't think she'd still be around.
She was apparently 40. She was age 39 when she went out to sea. She was born in the 1800s, guys. So she is almost certainly not still alive. And you would think that if she was, like, hiding somewhere and she died, the people who were harboring her would be like, hey, we had Amelia Earhart this whole time. You can stop looking for her. So she must have gone out there and crashed, or something must have happened. She's either out here and over 120 years old, or she is somewhere in the Pacific, maybe on Nikamaroro Island or however it's pronounced. So check out this program on National Geographic on October 20th to find out, I guess.
I am excited.
Yeah, it should be very interesting. Let's find out what all of us are up to. And let's start with Mr. Techtic this week, see what he's been up to.
Okay, I am very excited about one particular thing that happened this last week, and that is, as you know, I've gotten back into collecting Pokemon cards and building decks and things like that, and in last week, the Dragonite starter deck came out, and it's referred to as the Soaring Storm theme deck. And let me go ahead and read this description for you. Ride the storm winds. Pull lightning and torrential rain out of the air for Dragon Impact and rebuild your power with Dragonite's Hurricane Charge ability. Thunderous and Tornadus join the fray to keep foes reeling as you hold the high ground with the Soaring Storm theme deck. Okay, if that doesn't excite you, I don't know what will. Now, Dragonite is my favorite Pokemon. He's like this happy-go-lucky dragon, and on the cover, he's just kind of like waving to you, and it's really happy. And then the other thing is Thunderous and Tornadus are kind of like, if you ever watched Family Guy, they're those two muscle guys in tights that go, hup, hup.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, well, they're these two kind of muscle brothers, and one's power is thunder, one's power is tornado, and they kind of like boost each other if you play both at the same time, one on your bench, one in play. And all in all, I'm pretty impressed with this deck. I played it on the Pokemon Online game, and it does very well. So check out a Soaring Storm theme deck. That was the high point of my week. And what do you guys think?
So I played with the deck with you, and it was a very powerful deck. I think I took out the one person that I played against in maybe 5 minutes, because my first draw of my hand was basically putting Thundurus and Tornadus out there, and I basically mopped the floor with those two Pokemon, and just basically in 6 turns I had finished the game.
So my take, being an uninitiated non-Pokemon person, is sounds cool, man. Sounds cool. Keep up the good work. Both honestly, you and Pokemon.
With these starter decks, since you are a big board game person, I actually think you can very easily get into it and kind of enjoy it.
You're hinting at my update. So do you have anything more to add, or is that a segue that I can use?
So I am unfamiliar with your update, so this was not intentional segue, but I will gladly take credit for it.
All right. My update for this week. So I've been doing some traveling. As you know, last week recorded the podcast live with Nerdbomber and Techtic, and while I was in their area, I had a chance to play a few board games that I want to just kind of shout out here. As that was really the meat of my week. One is Super Motherload, which Techtic and Nerdbomber actually got for me for my birthday, so thank you to both of you. Played it a couple times while I was home. It's a deck builder if that's your cup of tea, and you're drilling on the surface of Mars. So if sci-fi is your thematic cup of tea, then you will probably love this game. Great mix of deck building and tile placement. Big fan. Easy 5 out of 5 stars. Will play again. The other one was significantly more involved. It was called Arkham Horror. Have you guys heard of Arkham Horror at all?
No, I have not.
I think it's fairly popular. It's essentially, it's what I think is called a legacy card game, but although that may be incorrect. It's still a deck builder, but essentially it's a cooperative game, which is, I love cooperative games. They're some of my favorite games to play. I don't like conflict. I like togetherness and harmony. So I was playing with 3 of my friends, and essentially the gist of it is you are 4 different people who have different sets of abilities, who are stuck into this kind of like 1800s-y, like think like Amnesia: The Dark Descent kind of thing, and you have to figure out your way out without dying, and a lot of fun, a lot of like Magic the Gathering kind of elements too, if you're into that kind of thing. I am not particularly, but I still love this game. So I wanted to shout that out as well. Other than that, like I said, I was traveling. I went camping, which is always fun. I went to a county fair. I ate those deep fried Oreos that I mentioned last week. I did have more than 2, and I did not die. So
good for you.
All in all, it was a good week. Nerdbomber, what do you got for us?
So the highlight, I think, of my week was I went to a Renaissance festival, and I believe I talked about this probably like 2 years ago, the last time I went to a Renaissance festival. But basically just got to transport myself back to ye olden times and watch some jousting, played a bunch of different games like axe throwing, star throwing, knife throwing. Was really bad at archery, so probably would never have been an archer in a past medieval life.
Did you eat a turkey leg?
I did not. I'm not a big turkey leg person. It gets too messy. You don't really get as much meat as you think, or it's just like too much to handle.
Okay.
So
you're saying they were available, but you didn't partake?
Yeah, I got a good medieval gyro, so that was delicious.
Ooh.
Yeah. But overall, it was a lot of fun. It was great weather for it. Every year we say we're going to dress up, though, and we never do. So maybe next year.
I'm telling you, next year I'm going to get dressed up. Next year is the year.
It will be the year.
I've already drawn out schematics for a sweet staff.
One of these years, I'm going to buy a sword.
I did see the pictures that you guys posted. And so are we talking full suit of armor here for next year, Techtic? I mean, that'd be pretty hot and clumsy and heavy.
So I decided I'm going to be a mage, and that's why I'm going to have a sweet staff. And the beautiful thing about mage is there's so many variances of wizard / mage / paladin, I guess you can call it. And
sure,
one potential outfit could be pretty much no clothing with just like a bunch of markings on my body. That's an option.
Wow. I like that one.
It'll certainly be cool, and as long as I have a cool staff that lights up when I touch it, and that's the key.
Let's talk about this staff for a second. Are we talking Gandalf's first staff or Gandalf's second staff in terms of like the overall look?
So I'm picturing it has to be a tall, girthy staff because I want to have electronics in it.
Girthy.
And
you heard it here first, folks.
Specifically,
Girthy.
all I want is lights. But what it's got to have is it's got to have a battery pack that can be hidden, and it'll probably be in some kind of skull on the top because I'll probably be a dark paladin.
That's going to be one girthy staff.
So, well, no, the battery pack will be in the skull, so it doesn't need to be. And then what I'm going to have is lights also in the skull, and then wires running down the shaft in the center of it. So I'm going to need to drill a hole, and that's where it's got to be thicker. And then coming out where my hand is going to be 2 copper plates. And then I'm going to have just a small loop of a wire running from to my pointer finger to my middle finger, and it'll metal
close the circuit.
Wire, right, will close the circuit such that whenever I touch the staff, it lights up. And obviously, I'm going to do like a. It's not just going to turn on; it's going to kind of pulse. Would be the type of light. It'll be more of a glow than it just is like a light bulb turning on.
Sounds like an Adam Savage level build here.
No, it's a very simple circuit. But that's kind of what I have planned. And
now you're really hyping. I mean, you guys better dress up next year. I mean, you're really hyping it now.
No clothes, just markers.
You got to have some
audio
clothes,
evidence
man.
now.
Okay, tunic.
There's children at this Renaissance festival.
Tunic.
They don't need to be seeing your girthy staff. All right.
It's going to be a totally balled out staff, and then tunic.
Super balled out.
Super balled out. So, okay.
Tunic.
Well, with this in mind, I mean, this is there's audio evidence to this now, so you have to commit. And with that in mind, Nerdbomber, like what's your vision for yourself?
By the way, I meant to say baller, not bald out.
Bald out. It's too late. You can't take it back.
So I don't really have a vision, which is why I don't dress up every year, because I don't want to wear a corset or something like that, which a lot of females wear at the Renaissance Festival.
Is that the thing that you can't breathe when you wear it?
Yeah, that just doesn't seem fun to me. So I guess it would be
breathing
something...
is fun, yeah.
Yeah, breathing is a lot of fun. So maybe it would be something like an elven archer, but I'm not good at archery, so that would not work either. So I'm not really sure. I still have to work out the details. I clearly do not have it as far planned out as Techtic does.
So you have a year. The outfit's not important. You have a year to become a good archer, and then you can go as an elven archer, and then you're done.
That's a really good point. I need to start practicing and grab my bow.
Well, there you go. I think I speak for all of our listeners when I say we're looking forward to the photos next year, and they better be good because you're promising a lot. So with that in mind, let's do a quick recap before we get into our game of the end of season... Oh gosh, what was it? Season 3 of end of season 3 of our fantasy movie league. I guess we can start with the exciting news, which is that if you want to be a part of the fantasy movie league, we have season 4 starting this weekend. So this is your best time to get in on this, guys. We have 9 people in on it right now. You could be number 10 and you could take the whole fantasy movie league world by storm. If you just go over to fantasymovieleague.com, look for our league. Our league is OnlineWarriors Podcast, and it is password protected, but the password is all lowercase podcast. You can join in the fun. You can pick a Cineplex every week, put movies you think are going to be the highest performing, and you'll beat me. That's for sure. I suck.
Yeah,
who doesn't suck? Nerdbomber. She won season 3.
Just to run down, I guess, this last week, because I did win the entire season, but we had a bunch of people who came in the midway through the season. So I kind of like to go week by week and just look at the overall standings from the week. So sure. I did kind of blow this week out of the water. I had $101 million, and in second place, which was Hipster Pop Geek, came in at $72 million. So apparently I was super good at estimating the Cineplex. In third place was Mecha Yoda. Then fourth was Devin Reed. Fifth was Techtic.
Wah, wah.
And then sixth was Heck It's Tech. And then seventh and eighth and ninth are all 3 people who I think forgot to set a lineup. Spitfire 32 had 11 million because he forgot to set a lineup, and Illeagle 86 had 3 million because he also forgot to set a lineup. And then of course, our friends at Dem Fancy did not set one as per usual.
To kind of defend myself here, I had no reason to. I was so far away from the people that were above and below me in the direct standings that I was like, I don't need to think about this week. It has no bearing. So I didn't. I didn't forget. I want to make that clear. I very purposefully did not do it. Whether that makes it any better, you decide. I will say that in season 4, I plan on forgetting 0 weeks, and I plan on crushing all of you.
The interesting thing about season 4 is that it will also be taking place about when fantasy football leagues start. So if anybody does forget and you're really big into fantasy football, then you can just add it onto your fantasy checklist of things to look at every week.
I had not thought of that, but it's, in my case, a fantastic idea as I'm in 3 fantasy football leagues. So I will add this to the checklist. So yeah, again, if you want to be a part of this, we'd love to have you. As you can see, we have other people besides the 3 of us getting in on the fun. Hipster Pop Geek and Mecha Yoda, Devin Reed, Heck It's Tech. They're all filling out lineups. Spitfire definitely did at one point as well. He or she just forgot this week, and you know what? We're only human. Everyone forgets things. But season 4 is going to run 10 weeks, just like the other 3 seasons we've had. August 16th through October 20th. It'll be the day of the National Geographic program about Amelia Earhart. So now's the time to get in if you want to be competitive in the overall standings, and if you want to have a good time with us. So check it out. And to wrap things up today, we're going to go into our trivia that Mr. Ben Checkness suggested for us. And we're going to be talking about Pac-Man today, guys. So I have 7 questions in front of me here. They are all Price is Right style questions. And and therefore, in theory, there should be only one winner because there's an odd number of questions. So let's just get started right away with what I think is the most interesting question. The original file size for the Pac-Man game, how big was it?
Who gets to go first?
I think we'll stick with the old ladies first, even though it puts you at a direct disadvantage.
Okay, I'm going to say, 800 megabytes.
Okay.
I'm going to go 64 kilobytes.
All right. Well, you guys both busted.
Really? It's that
you were
small?
Quite a bit closer. 24 kilobytes, guys. 24 kilobytes. I mean, this was back in
I don't know if you heard me whispering, but I was doing multiples of 8 in the fashion of binary because I was hoping it was kind of that, and I was close. I literally went 8, 16, 24.
I'm not going to give out points for that because you were still more than double what it was, but you were in the right magnitude ballpark. Nerdbomber was off in her own world. I mean, this was like 1970, I think, that this came out. So. Yeah,
I was way off.
Suffice it to say, I think it might have been 1980, but either way, it is still quite old. The year that it came out is clearly not one of the questions. Okay, so no points. Okay, next question. The Pac-Man game for the Atari 2600 was, in fact, I think the best-selling game for the Atari 2600, in spite of the fact that it was fairly panned. People didn't seem to like it. It's considered one of the worst remakes of all time.
How do you screw up Pac-Man, though?
It apparently was unfinished. I don't have all the details. I'm reading this off a webpage, but yeah. It was still the best-selling game on the system, as I mentioned. How many copies did Pac-Man for the Atari 2600 sell? And Techtic, you will start this time.
15,000 copies.
Okay, I'm going to go with 15,001. Wait, no, 15,001. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, Nerdbomber gets the point.
Oh, yeah.
That was dirty.
Price is right, baby.
Neither of you were remotely close. I almost don't want to give you a point, but I'm going to anyways. 7 million copies, guys. 7 million.
I was close with the memory one, and you went and gave it to her.
Well, it's because you busted, man. That's how busting works. If you go over, you bust. She didn't go over on this one. You went over on the last one.
Dirty.
Call it whatever you want.
Enjoy your dirty point.
Call it whatever you want.
It.
She's ahead of you on the scoreboard. Okay, this one is a fun one. Let me scroll to it because I'm on this long web page. This is my favorite one. Pac-Man was actually it was also ported into a TV show. It was a Saturday morning cartoon based on the Pac-Man arcade game. It came out in 1982. How many seasons did it run for?
I'm going to go with 3 seasons.
Tactic.
I'm going to go with 4 seasons.
You guys both busted. It was 2 seasons.
Really? Was it?
It wasn't very good, apparently.
I mean, I can probably see that.
It's described here as mostly terrible. So, to our listeners, feel free to check it out. So, you guys both busted, so we still just have Nerdbomber sitting pretty at 1 point. But that's okay.
Well, it's not an unreachable lead.
There's still 4 questions to go. This next one is kind of similar to the question I just asked. Pac-Man Fever is a pop song that came out. It was released by parody duo Jerry Buckner and Gary Garcia in 1982. How high on the U.S. charts did it get?
Tactic, this one's on you.
I know, you gotta let me think. So, is there like a how high out of X?
No.
I think the charts are usually out of 100, though. Not that I should help you, but I'm pretty sure like that's what the U.S. based charts are.
I think she's right, but I'm not going to verify it. I'm not going to give you the upper bound.
So would this be an inverse bust then? Because obviously one would be the best.
If the number is, for this one, to avoid any issues with that, let's just say whoever's closer gets the point. How about that?
Okay, I'm going to go 84.
Okay, Nerdbomber.
I'm going to go 45 because I think people like their Pac-Man.
Nerdbomber gets another point. It was number 9. It peaked at number 9.
No way. It made top 10.
I got to listen to this song. It's apparently a banger. Shout out to...
You even said in the same vein as the previous question, as opposed to, which pretty much meant no one liked it.
No, what it meant to me was it was ported to a TV show. It was also ported into song form. That's what I meant. I didn't mean it was bad. Apparently it wasn't bad. Shout out to Jerry Buckner and Gary Garcia for putting together a real great song, Pac-Man Fever.
Yeah, what a bop. We need to listen to this now.
What an absolute bop. I have the video right in front of me, but obviously if I play it, you guys won't be able to hear it, so it'd be useless. Okay, so Nerdbomber has 2, but never fear. There are still 3 questions to go, so Techtic, you could still pull this off. What is the highest level you can reach in Pac-Man? Much simpler question.
I want to say it's 15.
Okay. I'm going to go with 16.
Yeah. Nerdbomber, it is way higher. Techtic gets this point. 265.
What?
So you could be playing Pac-Man for a very long time.
I always thought there was like an ending.
Well, there is an ending because apparently level 265 is glitchy. So here it is. Oh, you know what? Wow, there's a typo on this webpage. It might actually be level 256, which would make sense because of the division by 8. In level 256, half of the screen looks like a normal Pac-Man maze, but the other half is a glitchy mess of random numbers, colors, and symbols. You can attempt to continue to play, but it won't be long before the game glitches out. So, remember that this was 24 kilobytes, so probably hitting the memory ceiling on that one. So, yeah, 256, we can say. Either way, Techtic gets the point, and here we are. Now Techtic is right back in the game. This next question is very similar. What is the highest possible score you can get in Pac-Man?
Okay, I'm going to go with 9,900,099,999,9.
Okay, so you're banking on the digits maxing out. Okay.
Yeah.
Nerdbomber?
Okay, hold on. I have to do some math. So I'm pretty sure you can get, because you get an extra life at 100,000, which I think you accomplish in the second level. So assuming that you can get 100,000 in every 2 levels, that would be 128 times 100,000 would be 12,800,000.
Okay. And sorry, Techtic, you said 9 million, right?
Yes.
9,900,000. Okay, you guys both busted. Techtic's closer, so I don't know whether I should give him the point. I think I'm going to give him the point just to make this interesting.
Do you get a life at 10,000? Am I thinking wrong?
It's the highest possible score is 3,333,360. So hang on. The webpage might say how exactly you achieve that score. It might give you some kind of math. It doesn't say anything. It just says it took the person 6 hours to do it. So that's not really helpful information. The final question relates to the previous question. And given that I gave Techtic a pity point, we are all knotted up at 2. So the winner of this one gets it. No bust rules. We're saying whoever's closest. What year was that high score achieved?
I'm going to pass it over to Techtic because I think he goes first.
You are incorrect. He went first last time.
Oh, that's right. Oh, man.
Thanks a lot, jerk.
I'm all over the place.
Nice try.
I'm going to say it was accomplished in 1985.
Okay. Techtic.
I'm going to go 1990.
Techtic takes it home. What a comeback. 1999.
Winning with a pity point. I think this one has an asterisk.
Well, if I didn't get the pity point, it would be all tied up. If you want to throw in a... because technically we both...
Sure. Let me, if you give me a minute talk amongst yourselves, and I can figure out another question.
Well, question, with that one pity point, I busted and she didn't, correct?
No, we had both busted.
You both busted. Oh, I love this. Okay. This is an amazing question. In 2010, again, we're just to break the tie, we're doing whoever's closest here. No bust rules, okay? In 2010, Google celebrated Pac-Man's 30th anniversary by replacing its usual logo with a playable Pac-Man style maze. Some estimates say that the drop in productivity due to people playing at work cost the global economy how much money?
Who gets to go
question.
first on this one?
This it would be Techtic this time. This question speaks to me on my deepest level of procrastination.
$625 million.
Okay, I'm going to say 400 million.
You said 400 million? Mm-hmm. Okay, now Nerdbomber wins. Boy, this is so much drama in this game today. It was 120 million.
That's it?
Yeah, you overestimated the world's proclivity for procrastination. So yeah, I guess it's a positive note to end on. I mean,
I just want to say, if we didn't play the bust rule, I would have won, and this question wouldn't need to happen with the kilobytes. Just saying.
Okay, would you like me to call the Wambulance?
It's fine. I'm just saying.
I think the number is Wine11.
Pretty good.
I'm just saying, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired.
So Techtic is going to go call the Wambulance. Nerdbomber is going to bask in the glory of victory in more ways than one, because she also won the Fantasy Movie League, and I am going to sit here essentially ambivalent to everything that's happened. And I'll be doing so until next week. I'll just sit in this room, and that's it. So
someone
I'll be waiting
remember
for
to
you.
feed and water Illeagle.
And my cat, who actually is in this room right now, just staring at me. So yeah, thank you guys for joining us this week. We really appreciate you listening, as always. If you like what you hear, we would really appreciate it if you went on over to the old iTunes machine and gave us a rating. Give us 5 stars, or don't even give us 5 stars. Give us however many stars you think we deserve. Even if that's 1, we want to hear about it. It will be less happy about it, but at least we'll know you were honest. And yeah, again, we really appreciate you guys listening. And tell your friends. And have a great week.
Yeah, have a great week, everyone.
See ya.